I'm here at the RYA Dinghy and Watersport Show 2025 with Tom Morris, who many will know as Mozzy from the famous Mozzy Sales YouTube channel with all the America's Cup analysis. Now, on the Allen stand, Mozzy has been working with Allen for 5 years and making sure that the sailor feedback into the fittings that they make really do work for sailors. And last year we took a look at it, the RS 800 and some of the fittings there. But here we have his Europe, his national championship winning Europe. And we've got a couple of fittings here which you've made some changes to how things are done. First thing, Tom, these cleats. You've got some where you've got really heavy loads on and some with light loads. And you want to make sure you've got that fingertip control. How have you made it so that those cleat when you're under really light pressures?
Yeah, so the feedback I gave to Alan when I moved into this boat is there's actually like the downhaul, in-haul, which are completely unloaded for at least 50% of the course, but you still need to get those ropes into the cleats. Now the ropes pull into the cleat with tension, but you don't want to be tensioning those lines, so having a really light spring in the actual cleat allows that line just to drop in ever so gently. And then reaching down to leeward, you can just brush it into the cleat. But then other ones like the kicker, which you're putting on pretty strong, and the toe strap, again, you want a firm cleat on that. There's always tension when you're adjusting it and leaning out. That's got a firm clip into. So that's been really, really good. Just a small thing, but in terms of usability makes a huge difference.
Is this something that Alan had thought about before, or was it just that sailor feedback, your feedback to them that said, if we put a different spring in here, we can make it so that it really works better?
Well, Alan gave me the opportunity to completely spec this boat from scratch, and I was adamant I wanted the Cam Cleats on and the ball bearing ones because I think it's so much easier just to do that click into it. And then Ben to Alan said, hey, we've got this idea about the light springs and the cleats, so I was like, that's absolutely ideal for what I'm doing. So he sent over a few test products for me to put on, and yeah, they've stayed on the boat since. In fact, he sent another 2 and I put those on as well.
The Europe has had a huge resurgence in the last few years, and fittings have moved on from when they were back in the Olympics. And another this bar here that you've got on the kicker, we've seen it in the fins, the OKs, where you've got the low booms, but this hadn't really come out in the Europe class, and this is something else you've developed with Alan.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd seen it in the fins, and historically they had them in the Europes, then went away from them, and I couldn't fathom why. This is a new iteration, so Alan are using, it's effectively a sheave at the top, the rope wraps around to keep that angle of pull consistent and steep. And then it's a 5-to-1 ratio within the lever, so at the bottom you're 5 times the distance away of the black ring. And it gives a really powerful, with the rest of the cordage, makes a 20-to-1 maximum leverage, but then decays off to either side of the throw of the device, which then just means you need less rope in the boat, so you've got power there when you need it, and less rope around your feet when you don't need it.
And with some of these traditional classes which have had a revival, there were some great ideas back in the day, but sometimes the materials weren't really up to it, and so some of the things may not have worked so well then, but work so well nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. There's things with, in terms of the high-tech dynemas is far higher loads, which then you've got higher load blocks. So on the bottom of that kicker there, just at the top of the 4-to-1, I've got the XHL. Also looks bling in the orange as well and sets off against the blue, but serves a practical use as well.
It's always good when you see a tiny little XHL and these tiny thin lines, and you know that the whole load of everything's going through that. But it's extraordinary, the loads that everything can take on small fittings.
Yeah, this is a neat boat, a cute little boat, and that is a neat and cute little block, so they fit together pretty well.
Well, Mozzy, it's fantastic to see continual development and just that whole sailor feedback that you're doing with Alan as a fittings provider for you. And it really does move things forward so that sailors actually have an easier time on the water. So thanks for your time.
Oh, definitely. Pleasure to speak boats with you.
Cheers. And I'm now here with Ben Harden from Allen Brothers. And Ben, when you're working with sailors like Mozzy, who actually really have an analytical mind, it must mean that it's so easy for you then to produce the fittings that sailors want and really give them the kind of experience in a boat that makes their life easier.
Yeah, look, we're all sailors within Allen, right, and we're making products for boats. We all love sailing, we go sailing, but there's only so much time that we ourselves can spend on the water to develop our own products. So working with sailors like Mozzy, who are sailing different boats to things that we might be sailing within the company ourselves, it's great because we get different feedback from different people, and look, everyone's got their own opinions on how things should be done. So it's really nice to work with someone like Mozzy, who's so data-driven, to help us produce or make our products better. Yeah, it's great, and having that spread across different fleets with different Team Allen athletes works really well.
The different spring tensions on these cleats, when you actually think about it, it seems so obvious, but I'd have never made the leap to think, right, if you just put that in, it would just make it easier to cleat in those light airs for something like the Cunningham, whereas you need a good strong spring for something like the Kicker.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that always evolves, right? We're always trying to make products better, technology moves on, ropes have changed. So a product that worked 10 years ago is not necessarily going to work today. The basic Cam Cleat, as you'll see here, is the same as it was and has been for a long time now, but improving it, by changing the spring stiffness is, like you say, it's only a small thing, but actually it makes a big difference to usability. And since having that feedback from Mozzy, we've actually moved that into the range, and you can now have a stiff or a soft spring. You might want a stiff spring for a halyard, and you might want a soft spring for a control line cleat. So having that ability to choose what you need is really important.
Now, the performance is always the key factor, but the Allen aesthetic, when you look at the anodizing on your fittings and of course the XHL blocks, it's so good that you've got the look as well as the performance.
It's got to look cool, right? It's got to look cool. So, I mean, we spend a lot of time making sure that things look good, and obviously it's got to function well. So the XHL blocks have been around for a while. They're a flagship block, right? And yeah, having the feedback from Mozzy that, look, I want to try the Vang Lever. It looks great. They used to use it on the Europe. Why can't we bring it back? So we just made him a custom version. To be fair, it's not particularly custom, it's just a little bit wider, which is quite easy to do. And he's been using it to great success, right? So yeah, it's worked really well.
Well, Ben, I always enjoy seeing what Allen are doing to bring things forward, make things easier for sailors. And I've got to say, seeing this on the boat and some of the ideas is superb. So thanks so much for your time.
That's fine. Cheers, Mark.